All right, this is the third segment of my Texas Dreamin presentation on Lightning Pages, best practices. Um, we are talking about how to do a makeover on an app, and I showed you a fairly simple app makeover that where we started with user stories, and we designed an app, and we got some kind of initial page layout, but it was very text-based, and it was very geeky, filled with lots of fields and jargon, but not much guidance to an ordinary user who would want to see it. And then we redesigned it so that they could see the product, and the user stories became very visible on the page. And I like to say, if you can shop on Amazon, you should be able to use a Salesforce app when it's well designed. And so what you want to do should be pretty big and visible, and clicking on what you should do should open up the information you need to see or give you information to fill out. People very much understand that, and so that's kind of what I think your goals should be. So let's talk a little bit more about how to do that. So you do need to start with the user stories. We started with those. I showed you them. Users wanted to know how many we had. They wanted to record an updated number of how many we had. They wanted to record incoming donations. They wanted to know what we needed to buy urgently and record those purchases so that everybody would know we now have them. They wanted to know what we needed to stock up on once in a while, and record those purchases so that everyone we'd have plenty. And then we also wanted to have a history of where we were getting things from. A lot of times we ask ourselves, where'd we get that? And we wanted a history of where they come from. And we also wanted to track best prices so that we could very easily answer the question for a shopper. Well, how much can I spend? If we need 20 tunas, how much can I spend? And so we would be able to answer that using best practices and best known sources. So those were the user stories, and we implemented a page, and then we tested it. And now I want to talk about two approaches to testing. One is the traditional method. You use your sandbox, you test it in the sandbox. This requires getting test data. This requires finding test users. A lot of times we try to act like our test users by proxy. And then we release it, and often there's a lot of surprises. And so that is the traditional method. And I don't have a problem with that, but I want to offer something better. I do think you should use a sandbox. I do think you should develop your data model and your automations in sandbox. I do think you should develop your initial pages in sandbox. But I think you should release them into a beta app in your live org and begin to allow real live users to switch to the live org. And just as an example, we have two inventory apps in our system right now. One is the inventory app that we released, which has the kind of not so wonderful pages. And the other is our beta inventory app, and it's dated summer 2022. And so we're telling people who are actually using it that they probably want to switch to this beta app and tell us. It was suggested during the presentation that maybe we call that beta inventory A/B testing to imply to users that it's more than beta and that feedback is being solicited. You can find something that works in your organization, but the point is you have two different applications and each has different page layouts, and that's the key. You're going to build the application that you call your beta application to be thrown away. Eventually, you're going to be finished with all your testing. You're going to know what pages you want, and you're going to actually remove the application. But you're not going to design the pages to be deleted. This page you're going to keep, and in fact, eventually, I'll edit the page. Eventually, you're going to replace this page. You're going to activate your beta page on your real published app eventually, therefore allowing you eventually, in fact, to delete the original page. And so I suggest that you name these pages based on the date they were created. This is the summary inventory item. This is the SIM inventory item summer 2022. That way, when we activate it for our actual app, which you do, you just click the activation button and you say, you know what, right now it's the app default for this sim beta inventory app on desktop and phone. But eventually I'm going to say, no, it is the org default, right, for all form factors, but I'm not ready to say that yet. So I have two pages. I have the original and I have my new improved version. And changing one doesn't affect the other, which is your goal, and it's wonderful. Occasionally you have some dependencies that you wish to change. This page has a dependency. If we go to the very highest level of this, you discover that it does in fact have a dependency on, I swear it does. Well, if nothing else, the button. It has a dependency on some page layout that is in classic, and I don't actually know what one, because I guess I have defeated most of that. I've defeated most of that. The quick related list probably has a dependency. There we go. It's dependent on the inventory item layout. If I actually want this component to be different than the one on our published page, I would have to create a second summer 2022 classic page layout also. But often I find that we can share those as we go through makeovers, because there's so little dependency on the classic page layout anymore. So you start with the user stories and you number them and you treat them very, very, very seriously. And then you determine which of these methods you're going to use for testing. Highly recommend the alternative method. And you release your beta app and your beta page layouts, and you iterate. You start letting users use them and find out where they struggle at first, because if they use Amazon, they shouldn't have to struggle with your page. And so watch them as they use it and ask them what confused them or what was hard to find, and improve that. And if they end up entering data that's incorrect, try to figure out how you could help them. Can you put warning messages on the screen? Are there validation rules that are missing? I don't actually like validation rules so much, except to prevent the nonsensical. I like to put conditional statements on the page that help the user understand that something's missing, or something needs to be made more clear in the data entry. Get some lead users to try this. Don't ignore first-time users. First-time users often have more brilliant ideas about how to make your app simpler and more effective than the long-term users. Long-term users have adapted, and the newbies often have better insights. Broaden your test, invite more people, and eventually you're going to find that it's good enough. You may have some big ideas that you can't easily incorporate right now. Hang on to those, but it's probably time to release. And so you activate your summer 2022 pages, in this case, for your main app, and you have a release party. Tell everybody they're different. Make a lunch and learn for anybody who needs additional training. But that's probably not be the case, because it's so much better. They're going to be grateful and everything else. So that's how we do a remake. And hopefully you're going to find, you're going to find that it's just really wonderful. I want to show you a few of the items on this remake. Not that it's super important, but we are using a component here. We're using lots of conditional text components with color coding and larger text to make some of the advisories stand out. And those are rich text elements, but they have conditional view based on record fields. If you only wanted certain people to see the stock up instructions, you could base it on users or user profiles or permissions. We have this picture component. I'm a big fan of Sharon Pix, but Sharon Pix has an internal, has a free component that you can use on pages like this one, and it actually can upload your photos to um, a content document, an attachment, or a file. So you can use whatever model you're using. You can and you can allow download, or you can allow multiple, and you can control the size of it and the speed. It's really nice. Um, we have some conditional field sets here, and I'm not using the dynamic forms capability of Salesforce because they haven't chosen or ever given us a date for bringing that to mobile. And so I am using an add-on component called the app record details. It's a free component from Salesforce Labs. It allows you to define any set of fields that you want. They are editable and use the standard Lightning look and feel and the pencil icon. You can go into metadata and make some of them read only. And these are conditional. So this is our urgent need instructions. This is our stock up instructions. And if we want to add fields to that later, we can. It's quite nice. And it's independent of the classic page layout. Then we have a tab over here. And generally speaking, I favor 2-column layouts on desktop. Putting advisories and wizards that don't need much data on the screen at a time, perhaps, on 1/3 of the page, and then putting information that is relevant to particular user stories on the other 2/3 of the page. If you find you have lots of data that you need to show in each one, you may want to go with a 50-50 split. 2/3 of the page is enough to not have too many of the Salesforce components do bad things. We have used a tab, and then we have tried our best, at least, to name the tabs by some very recognizable keywords that tell the user, oh, I want to pick that if I'm involved, if I'm interested in this user story. And a lot of these simply have a record detail app panel in them showing different fields. Or perhaps they have a related list component showing different fields. Come summer 2022 release, we're going to have dynamic related lists on desktop. Sadly, they will not work on mobile. And so you're going to even have better control of related lists. We chose to put the path here to guide the user in terms of setting up and deactivating an inventory item. And so we chose to put it, but it takes up too much space at the top, and it's not a traditional user story that they do every day. So we put it at the bottom so that it's visible, but out of sight for the more common user stories. We could have put it on a tab, but we thought it wasn't very helpful in the tab, we thought. So anyway, that's kind of what's on this page and the way we're working it. And I've done something here also that you may find you have to do. We've put one tab, that is, we called it details, but it's everything. And it's actually the original classic page layout. So there is a way to get to everything, and it's on that details page. This can be your escape valve when you have people who somehow are doing something that's not captured by one of the user stories that you supported. They can go to the details page and do it kind of the old way. It's also a decent way to help people who are slow to adopt change still get by in your new released app. They can go to the details page and do it the old way until they begin to see that hopefully your user stories are more efficient and help them get their job done better. So that's what it looks like, and I do want to point out that this is exactly the same page layout in mobile. So there's nothing special going on to support mobile other than the knowledge to know what components to choose that will work well, and we'll cover that in the next segment or in a segment coming soon. So that's what we've done this time, and next we're going to talk about two different kinds of records and how challenging how the challenges and user stories vary between them. So thanks much, and keep watching if you'd like to do that. You can skip to the segment on mobile if you want to, if you're not interested in two kinds of records, but I think you will be. Bye.